We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
Israel under threat as Iran continues its barrage. But what is the aftermath of that, and what are the political ramifications and the military and national security ramifications from the initial attack? We're very fortunate to have with us Dave Patterson, Liberty Nation's national security correspondent. Dave, thanks for coming in.
Happy to be with you, Mark. Always good to be on your show.
So, Dave, the first thing I have to ask is, you did a great article on this on the page of libertynation.com, and it was all about the spin machine kicks into motion. And it's a fantastic piece that discusses the White House spin, really, that's attempting to craft a narrative that isn't, as far as I can tell, quite true. Now, if we go to a lot of what we call maybe the legacy media places, they're talking that Iran was somewhat justified in its retaliatory strike because Israel attacked the sovereign land of Iran first. Now, that's not quite true, is it, Dave?
No, it's not. In fact, there are several things that I think that your listeners need to realize. First of all, Israel killed a high-ranking general officer who was part of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, who managed the logistics, all of the support that goes to Hezbollah in terms of weaponry and every kind of support. So he was in charge of basically meting out the means for the terrorists to do their terror. So, and Hezbollah had been, since October 7th, had been attacking Israel from Lebanon, northern Israel. And so this guy was a legitimate military target. The fact that he was not in an embassy, he was not in Damascus, he was not in the Iranian embassy, he was in an annex, a consular annex, having meetings with his coterie of terrorists. So a legitimate military target.
Let's just dig into that for a second. So he was in an annex of the embassy, but embassies are, I believe it's frowned upon to use an embassy to plan terrorist strikes. I believe that kind of puts the embassy outside of its protected status, doesn't it?
Well, it does, actually. That embassy then becomes part of the belligerent. But it wasn't the embassy. It was an office building, an annex. But Iran took great offense at that. And so consequently, they sent their barrage of drones, cruise missiles, and ballistic missiles.
So there's an important point here. So there were over 300, I think it's 310 that you mentioned, a variety of different weaponry that was sent towards there. And there's a lot being made of how the Iron Dome and the US and the UK, and I believe also the French, participated in shooting down a lot of these drones, shooting down all of these rockets. And so only 1% made it through. Now, that's all well and good. I mean, good for Israel that it stopped that. But the intent, was it actually for all of the missiles to get through? Or is it, as you, I was going to say hinted at, but you made the point quite plainly in another article that you did on libertynation.com, that this was really a test to gather information on the kind of responses that can be expected, so it could be utilized and improved upon for deadly efficiency in future attacks. Does that about sum it up?
Yeah, I believe that is a perfectly reasonable estimate of their intent. A couple of things that kind of lead you to believe that is the first set of drones had their navigation lights on. I mean, if you're going to go in on a bombing raid, I can tell you per firsthand, you do not put your navigation lights on at night. Yep. But yet they did. So it was there. You might say that what they were trying to do is to see how quickly the Israelis would bring their air defense up. The Israelis have a very sophisticated, multi-layered air defense. with long range, medium range, and short range anti-aircraft missiles. It also tested, whether they intended this or not, but it also tested the capability of Israel coordinating and integrating all of the ships that fired their missiles in the Red Sea, the Jordanians, who also participated, and the UK, who had fighters in the air. And so imagine all of this stuff going on, and yet it was perfectly deconflicted and coordinated. That is a really amazing effort in terms of command, control, and communication. I don't believe anybody's talking about that.
This was a test of the defenses, which provides information, but it's not just to Iran that this provides information, right?
Oh, no. I mean, whenever you have some sort of a criminal activity, you always ask, cui bono, who benefits? Well, the Chinese benefited, the Russians benefited, North Korea benefited. They've all seen now what a sophisticated air defense in depth can do and will do to an oncoming enemy of aircraft or drones or missiles.
Now, let's talk about the Biden administration's response here. And before we get into the wider Biden administration thing, I want to talk specifically about National Security Advisor John Kirby and his frankly astounding press conference, which I didn't know whether to laugh or cry about it, really, Dave, because the two things that really stood out is one, blaming Donald Trump for this, which we'll go into. But the other was, and I think this is the one that should really surprise everybody. He was essentially asking for China to take a role in managing conflicts within the Middle East region, specifically in Iran. And for a country that claims to be, certainly acts in its foreign policy movements to be the policeman of the world, that seems a massive abdication in favor of somebody who is, for all intents and purposes, an adversary.
I think that's exactly right. I think you've hit it. The fact is that I kind of joke about this in the article, but it's almost true that there is a new unit of time that will replace the nanosecond, and that is the amount of time it takes for an event to happen and for the flak man, John Kirby, to get on the airwaves explaining what Biden really said and meant. Yeah, but the point is here that what Biden has attempted, first of all, they've made an enormous logical error. They try to minimize the attack of 310 plus missiles of various kinds and drones by saying, well, 99% of them were destroyed and the others fell harmlessly, so no harm, no foul. But that's entirely inaccurate. The intent was that those missiles and drones actually hit their targets, or at least some of them would. And so to suggest that and to minimize that level of attack and aggression is totally reprehensible. And the other thing that I think that by being able to minimize it, they can then take the next step, which is, Prime Minister Netanyahu, you really shouldn't respond. You should take this as a win, as Biden says, and just be satisfied. Well, that's absurd. If one of those missiles had been nuclear or some form of a dirty bomb and made it through, I think that the discussion we would be having would be entirely different. And yet, it's in the very near future, it's going to be a possibility.
Yeah, I guess that brings me to my last question, Dave. Is there going to be a direct retaliation from Israel? And do we believe Iran that it's over now?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Yes, the Israeli War Cabinet said they will respond. They're not telling anyone when or what the targets will be, but they're resolute in the fact that they understand deterrence and will respond in a way that sends the message. And no, I don't. If Israel is effective enough, I think that no, Iran won't make another attack because they'll know that the consequences are not in doubt.
Dave, thanks ever so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. I recommend everybody go and read Dave's work on the page of libertynation.com for some more incredible analysis. Thanks, Dave.
Hey, thank you, Mark. Glad to be with you.
We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.